She was the last person to see Adolf Hitler alive, and then she vanished without a trace. For decades, Constanza Manziarli was little more than a footnote in the chaos of history, just a name on a roster of Hitler's personal staff. But before she disappeared into the fog of a collapsing empire, she left behind something chilling, a series of letters that offered a rare intimate look into the darkest core of the Nazi regime. She wasn't a soldier or a political ideologue, she was a dietitian, and for 2 years, from 1943 to 1945, she prepared every meal Hitler consumed. What began as a prestigious appointment soon turned into a psychological and moral descent, played out under the stone ceiling of the Führer bunker. Born in 1920 in Innsbruck, Austria, Constanza Manziarli came from a comfortable, educated background. She studied nutrition and home economics with the aim of becoming a dietitian. Her calm nature, professionalism, and strict adherence to natural health made her an attractive candidate for a very unusual job. By the early 1940s, Adolf Hitler had grown increasingly obsessed with his health and diet, demanding a rigid vegetarian regime tailored to his every whim. In 1943, Constanza was recruited to become his personal cook and dietitian. At first, it felt like history unfolding. She was assigned to work at Hitler's mountain retreat in the Berghof, a place of eerie calm, heavy security, and strange routines. Constanza saw it as a high honor. To serve the most powerful man in Europe, it was like being pulled into the heart of destiny, but what she had really entered was a cage. There were no breaks, no days off, no room for error. Every juice had to be freshly squeezed. Every plate had to be arranged to Hitler's liking. And his behavior? It was far from rational. His paranoia infected everything. Each dish was inspected by his physicians. Everything was tasted for poison. Her entire job became an act of surveillance wrapped in routine. Over time, the facade of honor dissolved. What once felt like a prestigious role turned into something suffocating. "I bake a lot every day, often for hours," she wrote in one of her letters to her sister. "But in the evening, everything is always gone." She was not treated as a person, but as another tool in the bunker's machinery. Praise was non-existent. Criticism came cold and fast. If something was too salty or too warm, she got a glare or silence. Never thanks. Never kindness. Worse, her exhaustion was invisible. She worked long hours under intense scrutiny. The emotional toll became impossible to ignore, and by now the war was turning. Germany was losing ground. Berlin was being bombed relentlessly. Yet inside Hitler's inner circle, it was business as usual. She cooked, smiled, and pretended not to see the end coming. In April 1944, she wrote, "I have to stay as long as he is there. It is my cast-iron duty. But what makes me so worn out is the immense burden of responsibility I must bear with it." By early 1945, Constanza was no longer cooking in the open kitchens of mountain retreats. She was entombed beneath the streets of a ruined Berlin, inside the Führer bunker, a claustrophobic underground shelter reek of smoke, sweat, and doom. The air was stale, the walls closed in. Outside, the Red Army was drawing nearer. Inside, reality itself was slipping. Constanza continued to perform her duties. The kitchen was barely functional, but she still prepared Hitler's bland vegetarian meals, mashed potatoes, vegetable broths, and cakes he devoured during his late-night tirades. "I feel that I have one foot in the grave," she wrote. "I am not exaggerating. I encounter unimaginable difficulties that I cannot report." Daily life inside the bunker had a grotesque rhythm. Meals were served on time, as if pretending that routine could delay the inevitable. Hitler, now frail, trembling, and ghost-like, still held court during meals, ranting about betrayal, Jews, and phantom armies that no longer existed. Each explosion above was a drumbeat of death. Suicide whispers floated through the halls, cyanide capsules were passed hand to hand, and still Constanza cooked. At night, she heard Eva Braun crying behind walls, the scratch of Hitler's pacing shoes, the sighs of guards and secretaries who had no way out. Amid this madness, Hitler showed her something she never expected: strange favoritism. He once told her that her name, Constanza, reminded him of Mozart's wife. "I have a cook with a Mozart name," he joked after one dessert. On another occasion, he gave her a pair of thick woolen stockings. No ceremony, no explanation, just pressed them into her hands with a word about the cold. In any other context, these might have been quaint. In the bunker, they were surreal. The dictator of Nazi Germany handing out winter socks while the city above burned. The boss was falsely taught about ladies' fashion tastes, she wrote dryly. To her, these weren't signs of kindness, they were the confused gestures of a man detached from humanity, trying to play the role of benevolent leader while the world collapsed. Before she vanished, Constanza wrote a letter to her sister, one historians believe to be her final testimony. In it, she doesn't ask for forgiveness or justify her role. Instead, she recounts how her service began with duty and ended in numbness. She writes of how her daily tasks became rituals for a man obsessed with control, and how Hitler's presence came to feel less like a person and more like a black hole draining everyone around him. She described him in his final days as barely alive, pale, sunken, trembling. He still clung to routines, still gave orders, but his soul had long since left the room. She also described the people around him, Eva Braun's fading smile, the Goebbels children playing while cyanide was prepared for them in the next room, SS guards planning their own deaths, everyone pretending to function while everything around them died. Most haunting of all was her admission. She stayed not out of loyalty, but out of fear. She wanted to walk away. She didn't. That, she confessed, was how complicity worked. Not with grand gestures, but with 1,000 small silences. On April 30th, 1945, Constanza prepared Adolf Hitler's final meal. A bland vegetarian plate, some mashed potatoes, perhaps a broth or a bit of pasta. No speeches, no tirades, just quiet. Witnesses say Hitler seemed oddly calm, as if the decision to end his life brought him peace. She placed the meal in front of him. No words were exchanged, no thanks, just the clink of cutlery and silence. Hours later, he was dead. Cyanide and a gun. Eva Braun followed him. Constanza's job, and her life, as she knew it, was over. The next day, Constanza tried to escape Berlin. Dressed in an SS uniform, she joined a small group including Hitler's valet Heinz Linge and SS officer Wilhelm Mohnke. They hoped to reach the Western Allies. She never made it. Witnesses say she was stopped by Soviet patrols near a checkpoint. 2 Red Army soldiers took her away. After that, nothing. No records, no body, no closure. Some believe she was executed on the spot. Others say she was interrogated, then killed. A few speculate she survived under a false name, but no real evidence ever surfaced. Her family searched for decades. They found only silence. Constanza Manziarli's story isn't just about a cook in Hitler's bunker. It's about the quiet roles that make evil possible, the ones who don't pull the trigger but keep the engine running. She didn't give speeches, she didn't command armies, but she saw everything. The paranoia, the delusion, the slow death of a regime built on hate. Her letter, the one thing she left behind, reminds us that history isn't only shaped by tyrants and heroes. It's shaped by people like her, trapped, terrified, and trying to survive. She vanished in the rubble of the world she helped sustain, but her voice, small and cracking from the smoke of history, still echoes. She fed the devil, and then she disappeared. Have you ever found yourself in a place where doing your job meant ignoring the wrong all around you? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you next time.